I'm going to answer a lot of the questions that y'all continue sending me through the DMs. I really appreciate all these great questions, and y'all seem to really enjoy hearing the answers to them, so going to continue doing that. And also going to show you some exciting new stuff that we got going on. So a launch of apparel and some cool clothes to have some messages so you can take out the power of love into your daily grind and really flex that abundance, so to speak. Also have a book coming out soon and be talking a little bit more about here and there. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get to some of these questions. I really appreciate them, and really help us think and talk about a lot of this stuff differently. So let's go. Can I ask, oh, and also real quick, anytime that you want to see these videos going again, go check us out on YouTube. I'm uploading all these videos to YouTube, just FYI. Now, can I ask a question? Of course you can. Can anxiety affect your throat? And if so, how can you cope with it? Well, it absolutely can affect your throat. A lot of times people that have more anxiety symptoms have a lot of tension in their upper respiratory system, like your upper lungs, because there's a lot of like type breathing happening. In my own work and self-care work of just kind of, taking care of myself, doing deep tissue massage work and whatever, I always chat up the practitioners that I'm seeing, and I'm curious about the kind of stuff they see, what it tends to be related to, and I tend to start talking shop with them. They're like, yeah, the people that have more cervical spine tension in their neck and shoulders, so like, yeah, they tend to talk really fast and they tend to do all these other things. I'm going, oh yeah, well, that's what it's about. So when we have anxiety, there's all this upper respiratory breathing, and a lot of times folks have a really hard time, feels like getting a deep breath, or really like flexing your throat and your larynx and your esophagus how you're used to. And a lot of times people's voice sounds different when they're nervous, or it's kind of high pitched because you're not pushing enough air out, or whatever it happens to be. So yeah, super common. How do you cope with it? Learn to control your breath. Which is easier said than done when you have anxiety, but it's something that needs to be done anyway. If you have anxiety going on, learning how to regulate that nervous system on your own accord is going to be a really important part of your recovery process anyway. So, it's just an added benefit that you don't sound goofy when you're speaking up, or feel like you're sounding different than you'd like to and you don't like it. So I hurt someone I love due to unresolved. Hi, Lex Luthor. I've been hearing so many like doppelganger things. I think it's really funny. I think it's hilarious. So like, keep them coming. That's super funny. Lex Luthor, like all 5'7" of me. It's hilarious. I hurt someone I love due to unresolved inner child wounds. I'm getting help as much as I can. Where do I go from here if I want to earn their forgiveness? Well, I'm curious why you want to earn their forgiveness. If you want to get back with them, or if you just want their forgiveness for your own well-being, knowing that you have no regrets and you've done your own due diligence, kind of thinking like 12-step kind of vibe type thing. If we know we've messed up, when we're not doing well and our head hits the pillow at night, we start thinking about all these ways that we've hurt people, if that's something that we're still dealing with. So it can oftentimes be very helpful to go back and make amends, so to speak. That's why it's part of the 12-step recovery process. It should really just kind of be a part of recovering from anything going on. If you've had some type of problematic dynamic happening for a while, where do you go if you want to earn their forgiveness? First, I suggest you consider why you want to do it, and then you need to ask them. Straight up, it starts with them. You need to touch back with them directly, and keep in mind what you want it for and what their forgiveness will do for you specifically. I'm quite curious about this, and how else you might be able to have peace with yourself if they're not willing to participate in that with you, the way that we oftentimes think about. God, finally alive, watch all your videos. Hey, thanks for following. How do you know if you're a narcissist? Probably, well, people that are truly narcissists, like have narcissistic personality disorder, are are not going to realize, they're not going to question it. It's not going to happen. Most folks that are being called narcissist or narc or whatever in modern pop psychology stuff, a lot of times they're folks that have a lot of kind of other stuff going on, and they're behaving in unfair, unsavory, assholery, sometimes even abusive ways. And a lot of times they have more insight into what they're doing. However, figuring out the difference between the two, you really need to be seeing a trained psychologist to figure that kind of thing out. Love your stuff, man. Hey, absolutely pleasure. To protect my energy. How you know it's narcissist? Love seeing it. Oh man, I posted this video about the tattoo explanation of some Hebrew on my chest. As you see, it's kind of like poking out from everywhere, and it's not just Hebrew. It's just kind of grown up and keeping a log of my journey along the way. I'm sure I'll share other stories as we go along. But if you ever are creating content out there and you create something about kind of like a hot button socio-political issue, don't read the comments. Like, just don't do it. Just don't do it. Like, and if and I hope I really appreciate all you like speaking up as you have done. And you're trying to have dialogue with people, and also, no pressure at all. Like I appreciate it. I really am touched by stepping in and saying, hey, like feeling a bit like protective at times. I feel you. Like I appreciate that. But like, be easy. Enjoy your own life out there. Assholery. Have anything about attachment styles? Yeah, lots. All kinds of stuff about attachment styles. Sure, we'll talk a lot about it as we go. Stumbled upon your page and it made me think, am I too comfortable being single? Ooh, this is a common one. Who else is thinking about this these days? Too comfortable being single. My ex of 8 years and I broke up about 2 years ago because of his infidelity. Okay, long relationship, and he had some, as we said earlier, assholery there at the end. We have 2 kids. I was a stay-at-home mom and continued to take care of our kids full-time while working from home full-time while he sees them every other weekend only. Oh, that's tough. I've tried going on dating websites, started talking to people, then get bored with them. If they become interested enough, I'll go on a date, then lose interest after one date and ghost them. We've both been on each side of that. I wanted to be in a relationship, but then I don't want to. Am I just not opening up, or I haven't really read the right person? Please advise. You're not opening up. And you probably don't need to be quite yet. And I'm not talking about kids at home. I'm not talking about it being fresh breakup. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. I'm talking about trauma from infidelity. A lot of times people underestimate how much infidelity messes with, injures the non-participating partner. The partner who is not participating in the infidelity. As human beings, we're incredibly social. We have very deep connections with each other. And the deepest of those bonds as adults is in the primary mating relationship with another adult. I mean, even if you're like poly or whatever, you probably still have a primary. And it has always kind of gone back to this for human beings. And when this gets messed with, it feels like a part of home has been burned down unexpectedly. And when you have enough out of control in the same place, and you have enough pain in the same place, it can push past the stress response that we're used to managing, resulting in trauma. So a lot of times people after infidelity, the non-participating partner, will struggle with what is called in the research betrayal trauma. So you literally have flashbacks, literally like see the color car that his like side person had like everywhere suddenly, noticing it, like becoming hypervigilant, and you literally develop PTSD symptoms along this stuff. It can absolutely be healed from. I think you just need a little bit of time and do your own thing. And when you find the right person, when you're dating them, you'll know. You won't have as many doubts about that second one. You'll be willing to bet on it a little bit more. But don't put any pressure on yourself. This kind of thing is extraordinarily painful and very underrated in understanding how much it messes with us. It messes with our psyche. Should make a video on infidelity alone. You're right, I should. I do a lot of work in my practice around infidelity. That tends to be one of the more common issues that I see couples needing to heal from. And it's a lot of times couples that are willing to do the work and are there for the right reasons, and it's not just they're acting out as in a greater part of problematic belief systems about objectifying people and not having to be accountable, and just, as I kind of referred to earlier, general assholery. A lot of times, if we can dig into that work, I'd say 75% of the time, couples come out much stronger afterwards, because a lot of times when that kind of stuff happens, there are really deep-seated issues that needed to get figured out. And I'm not talking about any of this like she didn't know how to keep a man, he didn't know how to like rock her socks BS. I'm talking about like people systematically having trouble showing up together and having a codependent relationship, and then getting stuck and falling into other people's arms and not even realizing what the heck is going on in their own lives. How do you know if you have PTSD? It's a great question. So PTSD is most clearly characterized by an oscillation, by this going back and forth between intrusive symptoms and compartmentalizing symptoms, as the brain's attempt to protect itself, is preserve itself in this fight or flight space. And if we're fighting or flighting, it tends to be pretty intrusive, like hypervigilant, got to get out of there, or can be very intrusive anger, like I want to tear them down and I can't take my focus off of them. And then for the compartmentalized, a lot of times I actually find it looks like depression. And a lot of times people have untreated depression or anxiety, and underneath of it, there's actually trauma. And once you heal the trauma, a lot of times the symptoms alleviate. And these huge pharmaceutical medical industries don't like us talking about those things, but fuck them. What if you have PTSD, dyslexia, and nonlinear thought? It sounds like you probably need to have a job where you can do a lot of qualitative analysis. And I'm sure, I'm sure they're out there, and I'm sure that there's a place for you to plug in somewhere. I'm not sorry. A lot of times we get really bogged down in diagnoses. And I think diagnoses are helpful. Not as much as insurance companies would say they're helpful, but they can be helpful to some degree to figure out clusters of symptoms and identify best clinical practice about how to help you get resolution of those symptoms. But for large part, I generally encourage people to think outside of identifying with a diagnosis. And if as much as possible, considering other ways that we could come to the symptoms that are happening and help you figure out how to have resolution of them without having to be a person that has depression, has anxiety. As I was saying earlier, a lot of times it's figuring out some of these more subtle adverse childhood experiences that got combined with attachment issues, sometimes kind of play out in other funky relationship stuff, and we develop more symptoms. In these weird concrete jungles that we live in these days that are totally not natural, it's really hard for people to stay healthy. So when these kind of things start compounding on each other, it can be very tricky. And a lot of people do find a lot of help and support with medication, and not that there's anything wrong with that. Whatever's clever, whatever's working for you, of course. But again, let's think outside the box. Let's try to be holistic as well. Do speculation, having a degree in computer operation business systems helps. Yes, it does, I'm sure. Okay, I'm going to knock out some of these more viewer questions, and I really appreciate y'all sending these and like answering them for you. Can you give me tips on how to make a relationship reconnect and grow healthier after multiple cheatings from your partner? I do need to do more videos on infidelity. I'm going to do those, as I'm seeing and as have been suggested here. Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people think you're special needs, and you're probably freaking brilliant what you described doing for your job. So if there are multiple cheatings from your partner, you're either running into sex addiction or you're running into general assholery. And I know it's probably not a good look for a licensed marriage family therapist and supervisor with the American. I'm pretty study marriage and family systems a lot, but I don't think that's one that you should be recreating again. It sounds like there is something very systematic happening over and over again that is not healthy for anybody, and you're banging your head against a wall. I think you are trying a lot harder than they are. And I would encourage you to consider how you can insist that either they show up with you a little bit more so that it can actually meet your integrity. What's happening right now is not. It can't be. That's got to be miserable. And if not, consider what you need for yourself to meet your own integrity. If they can even do that, into a deep depression after I was jilted by a romantic partner. Yup. Fix things. Both of you have to work together. Yup. Giving light, showing up with the word. That's right. So, any advice for anxious attachment style, relationship anxiety, please? So, you can see we're going to be talking more about attachment stuff off and on. And this probably there's a lot of evidence-based research about it. It's really helpful to understand concepts. It's a concept that I use in the book as well to understand kind of systematic connection issues that people tend to have with other people and with ourselves. How do you stop seeing fault in every partner after divorce? You probably need to see fault in them. You just divorce them. Like it's okay, you're processing it. As far as an anxious attachment style, my ADHD-ness is showing. High functioning ADHD here. So if you have stuff going on, if you have, if you know that you have a pattern of having a hard time in relationships, then that stuff comes out in relationships. That's when people get close enough to us. If we are prone to doing some things with people and getting a bit spun around, that's when it's going to come out. And I say it like, how many standard differentiations to the mean, right? Like, are they family? Are they friends? Are they acquaintance? Are they business? Like, are they like romantic? Like, where is this? And in relationships, in romantic relationships, yo stuff's gonna come out. It just is, if you're showing up. And it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It shouldn't be a bad thing. Actually, people just really don't know how to frickin' talk to each other these days, and especially have constructive conflict that can end in furthering understanding, furthering trust, deepening vulnerability and intimacy. It almost sounds like craziness to a lot of people, especially at first when I'm working with them in my practice. So if you know that you have an anxious attachment style or some attachment injuries, I would recommend that you do a little bit of your own reading around attachment and start considering what your edges might be in where you tend to make some thinking errors in connecting to people. So there are a couple of different types of anxious attachment styles. One being a more avoidant attachment style. And this is when conflict happens, when tension arouses and one person needs to be saying, I'm hurt, or I need you, or something. They actually, instead of seeking closeness, they go away from them and they get angry with them. Do one of those. And it's basically kids that didn't have safe places to go growing up over and over again and learn to resent other people in their family and other close connections. When they do start getting upset, start expecting that they're not going to be there. And the frustration is helpful for pushing those people away so that they don't have to, in their mind, in that kind of inner child place, put their loved ones out with their upsettedness, right? That would be a more avoidant style. And a more insecure style would be this like separation anxiety type of presentation, where pursuing a lot, having a hard time giving space. And this would be where parents a lot of times early on were very inconsistent with being present or not present, and kids learned to almost like they got trained with like in gambling. It's called variable reinforcement, variable inner. It's a very long phrase, but it's basically like you get reinforced very randomly, and every now and again when you yank it, it goes off. Variable reinforcement interval. Yeah, that's what it is. So. And with either of those, it can be kind of a mind F when you're having a fight with your partner, because the times that you want to chase them, you need to remind yourself to back off and give them space. or the times that you want to run away from them and be angry at them and be disgusted with them, we have to remind ourselves to go under the layers of anger, consider where the anger is coming from, a position of vulnerability, of sadness, shame, or fear, and express that to our partner to give them the opportunity to be close with us and provide what is called a corrective emotional experience. And that actually lights up different circuits of the brain with what you're having with your partner in the moment to create that different type of mutual soothing, and you both heal together, right? You can heal in relationships as well. But again, I think we are, especially the last election cycle and all this crap happening, people seem to be rapidly forgetting how to be human with each other. And it's really unfortunate. So with that being said, how to be human together, want to introduce y'all to one of the t-shirts that we got now available on our website. This is the Human Up one. I think it's pretty dope. A play on that old man up concept. And we're reclaiming man up. We're gonna keep that going on, just like the handshake's gonna go on after the pandemic. Like we're gonna get back on the horse. We just need to reframe some of this stuff in some different ways. And our Human Up concept is really about men learning how to have a full range of emotional intelligence and lead with the power of love, so that we can earn the trust and understanding of people around us to fulfill our potential as guardians, as servant leaders, as protectors. Like we've evolved over hundreds of thousands of years with all this capacity and all this fast twitch muscle and all this stuff to be hunkering down in our foxhole, guarding our influence. No, the ways of Buddha, the ways of Jesus Christ, the ways of all these movers and shakers of different huge movements. It all gets down to serving meaningfully. And we cannot do that if we are stuck in a foxhole of our own making. So a lot of this campaign, a lot of what we're doing here, and a lot of what the Balanced Man Plan actually started out as is I was seeing that my childhood friends were dying from deaths of despair. Something that I haven't talked about a whole lot yet, but that I will talk more about, is that I was a rough kid. I had a rough upbringing and was involved in addiction stuff and acting out, and I had to find my own way in some really colorful manners, and luckily I did, and I'm on the other side of it, and now I do this, and I'm passionate about doing this work with other folks. A lot of the folks that I ran with when I was growing up were doing the same thing. Birds of a feather flock together, and a lot of them did not make it, and died from overdoses and suicides. And statistics are what the statistics are. One of my first drinking buddies died from delirium tremens when he was 22 years old, massive seizures. And my those friends that knew me, we rocked with each other. They knew I got it. They knew I had my own issues. They knew I was studying this stuff and understood other parts of it, like before I started even getting well. But even after I was well, like they knew I was out there and I had a practice going and whatever, and they still weren't calling me and asking for help. And in looking into it more, I realized that there was a very systematic issue, not only happening with mental health, but especially with men in mental health, that was driving these suicide rates, that's driving these addiction rates, that's driving these domestic violence rates. And that's when I started creating the Balanced Man Plan. Because I realized that there needed to be digital solutions to decentralizing power and creating justice for people in their own lives and access to solutions that really work. So anyway, a little bit of the history. If y'all want to know more about that as we go along, you can ask. I am sure you will, and I'm looking forward to when you do. But until then, let's answer some of these videos. Oh, again, those t-shirts, you can go online at the website, the link in the bio. There's a link for swag, apparel, and all the time, like 20% of our proceeds always go to the Lifeline. suicide prevention hotline. I worked as a suicide intervention hotline operator for a few years. My heart really goes out to those folks. That is tough work. And just trying to, again, do our part with participating in solutions best we can. Put the money where the mouth is. All right. Hi, I love some of your videos you have here. I started following you today. Well, thank you. As you came across my screen, I was interested in sessions from you. My fiance, we're having a lot of issues to talk about. Okay. He needs help controlling his anger issues because anger controls him instead of him controlling his emotions. Now, that sounds kind of out of control. He storms out, yells, starts throwing stuff or punching walls to let his anger out. Okay, we're going to talk about that. My attitude, I put a wall up. I'm sure you do. He's like having a threat display. And defend myself when I feel like I'm being attacked. And try to communicate with him, be honest. It seems like when I try to tell him my issues, talk about it, what's wrong, he withdraws. Okay, it sounds like you're in an abusive relationship. The dynamics that you talked about, where he's really out of control with his anger and storming and yelling around and slamming stuff, getting slammy. A lot of other mammals do this, and it's part of a threat display. A lot of times as fellas, we don't realize that we're doing it until we do, of course. Until someone speaks up, so like, knock it off, like you're acting like a child or whatever. As kids, a lot of times as boys, we're encouraged to do this, which is jacked up, right? It's like, oh, they get upset, they get angry, like give them some gloves, let them go like punch, let them go do stuff. And there's a time and a place for that. Absolutely. Learn how to cap all that fast twitch muscle and all that. Like that is an important responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. And there have got to be more outlets other than experiencing all this emotional tension and then expecting a physical place for that to be. It's not a good habit to have. And he's got it. So a lot of other mammals do this, besides besides humans, and it's part of a threat display. It's a very threatening type of thing to do. And a lot of times us fellas, sometimes women do it too, but when adults are doing it, a lot of times what people do once we reach a certain age is they start backing off of us because they're going like, oh shit, like that MFer's kind of like, he's having a threat display over here. Like, what is he going to do? And in that position, the other person goes, oh, they're backing off. They're giving me my way. They're doing what I remember them doing when I was a little boy, and I never learned to regulate myself and whatever. And it like keeps working, so they never question it. You don't have an attitude. You have a completely reasonable survival response to a big ass mammal having a threat display in front of you. Like you need to wall up. Straight up, like that's not weird at all. Y'all do need some outside help. He needs individual work before y'all can do couples work. He needs to learn how to manage that intensity for him if that's going to work, because it's that's a whole lot of mammal freaking out and being dysregulated over there. If y'all are going to have any fair chance of showing up together, if you're going to feel reasonably safe with this individual, he can't be doing that. So your response sounds totally reasonable. Keep trusting yourself, and it's okay to insist that happens, or at least know that happens for you, needs to happen for you, and like you're not weird. Like he's got some stuff going on. How do you do that without leaving them? I'm curious, do which part? And sometimes we got to be willing to consider leaving, especially if we know that someone is being scary and unfair and not willing to be fair with us. It's time to figure out an exit. It's not time to be open about it. It's time to keep your cards close and accept the fact that you are in a civil war. You are on different sides. It's not keeping secrets anymore. It's freaking protecting yourself. And if you need to do that, then damn it, that's what you need to do. it can be hard when you have a family with this person. I what I often find is when folks stay together for the kids, a lot of times it is a constant swimming upstream. And as scary as it can be to separate out and do your own thing and know that you can't, even though you know that you can't control the space when your kid's around the abuser, which is scary as crap as a parent. I mean, like, that's the biggest leap oftentimes for parents. And what that might involve. But I've often found that when you start engaging in that process honestly, and folks actually have to show up to the process, that it forces a lot of accountability, where you have some different leverage available to you than you would have before. Left single mom, it is hard. Old enough to thank me, so glad he did. Yeah, see, I mean, it's different for everybody. You need to do what's right for you. But especially as a marriage and family therapist, a lot of times folks will, I think, assume that I'm going to be like, folks always should stay together. Folks should always, and I'm about people being in happy and healthy relationships, because that's a amazingly effective and efficient conduit to health and wellness for human beings. That's how we evolved as a species. If we could have healthy systems of relationships, everything falls into place. Most things fall into place, and you get the most bang for your buck in community healing. That's what I'm all about. So a lot of times people are going, oh yeah, like he'll always assume that folks should stay together. I'm like, no, I don't. I believe that everybody deserves to be happy and healthy and live in peace as much as you get to control in your own life, whatever that needs to look like. Fuck what they're saying, just for what it's worth. Hi, hope you can answer in a video or maybe live tonight. If it's okay, it's worth a shot. Older sister and mom have a polluted relationship, meaning there's no space for me. They always feed into each other. Well, this sounds like an interesting relation. I don't know if you even want to be in this, but let's keep reading more about it. I didn't realize till I was 19, that's actually pretty early to be realizing, got extremely depressed because of how targeted I was by one from the other, diminishing, making sure I wasn't full enough. Fast forward, moved out, eloped, had a newborn, lost my newborn due to SIDS. This all happened in the last year. Sister girl. I don't ask for pity. I'm like, sorry, I guess. I mean, like, I don't feel pity for you. I'm just like, fuck, like, where? Okay. I'm still getting targeted for not finishing school, not marrying a socialite, being a young mom, moving states away. I mean, they should be happy you're a functioning adult right now, able to... I wish y'all could see this grammar. This grammar is like spot on. You're like a smart, young, well-trained person with really jacked up family stuff going on, and believing that you're really unworthy. I'm seriously worried about her and my mom's lying habits. Yeah, I hear you. They sound pretty unpleasant. How can I have a relationship with two people like this? Why do you want to? Besides them being your family, the next question, should I? I think you see where I'm going with it. I don't want my future kids to be rude and mean to others. Then you probably shouldn't have them spend time around rude and mean people. Just saying. I don't want them to feel entitled and lie and get away with it. Well, you got the gist. But when I left, my life was better. I grow and don't get put down again. I just don't want my mom and family to be resentful for me cutting them off again. What would be the best way to go about these relationships? They're resentful already. They are resentful, unhappy people. And the more I think you spend time with them, the more resentful you're going to get too. You need to figure out how close you can be with them while still maintaining as much of a relationship as you can. They're your family. And to some degree, you're going to want to know that you did what you could and didn't burn bridges that didn't need to be burned. It's nice to know, that we don't have to feel bad when that wave of feelings comes. Oh, because it's going to come, whether you have anything to feel bad for or not. Because these types of families, what you're describing is, mom keeping their daughter wrapped up, your sister wrapped up in this really toxic, like criticizing everybody else. We have this like insecurity club of two, and it's our responsibility to feed each other BS so we can stay comfortable with being in denial. You don't want to be invited to that party. And but regardless of you not wanting to be invited to that party, that is also your family. And when we have family members that we have to separate from, even emotionally, when they're doing this kind of thing, it is very common. What anyone will experience is this natural occurrence of shame when you start setting those boundaries. Like literally, set the boundary, feel shame. It's like the part of you, the defense mechanisms that have locked into place over the years to hold yourself accountable to playing by their rules. You started to internalize those voices and talk to yourself with those voices, even when you're setting limits with people that are not healthy for you. So a lot of times people assume that because we know it's painful or yucky or messy or polluted, I think I said there's a good word for toxic, or whatever, that we will somehow, just because we knew it was jacked up, that we'll go do different stuff when we become an adult. It just doesn't work like that. We really wanted to. Every teenager does, and we have enough rebellion in our blood as teenagers to really believe it will for a minute, but nonetheless, when we get into relationships and we get into some of those situations, that stuff's going to pop up. So I think you need to figure out a safe distance that you can be with your parents or from your family and not have to feel resentful of them, and doing what you get to do to protect the relationship with them. If they can't handle that, then they might get less to handle. That's how I generally recommend operating. And that's boundaries kind of with anybody, is if they're not managing the generosity that you have to share with them, if there's not enough reciprocity, if they're not willing to line up with your values and the way that you need to operate to go to bed good tired and know that you left it all out in the field, your core values, the foundation of your personal integrity, what we talk about in the purpose plan on the website of the Balanced Man Plan. If they're not willing to do these things, then they can't be a part of you sharing your integrity with them at that close of a level of generosity. So you gotta make it smaller. If they can't handle that, you make it smaller. If they can't handle that, well, you see a trend. And sometimes people can be taught what's okay with us and not okay with us in doing those ways, and sometimes people are just gonna blow it up and want to tear it down, and it makes it very easy to go, deuces, bye. But it's all, it is a process. It's not an event, and it's an ongoing experience that happens with people. We have to be able to read our emotions, read what they're doing, what their intentions are with us, insist on them engaging with us in some kind of fair and reasonable way, and then see what is available as a result of that conversation to let us know if we can stay as close with them, if we need to back it up. And again, it's a very dynamic, dialectic process where you're constantly balancing your own personal integrity and the generosity that you have to share, your gifts, your resources, your time, what you're here to do, your purpose, right? That's what it's all about. So with that one, that concept in line, this is another one of the t-shirts that we just put out. This is our do no harm, take no shit. I think this one is super dope. And a lot of times when I think about boundaries with people, that is how I'm conceptualizing it. Is I don't want to harm this person. We don't want to pay attention to what triggers you. We don't want to allow ourselves to lean into some feeling that we're having or some reaction that we're having and hurt somebody. That's not okay. That's not fair. It's okay to be hurt. It's not okay to pay it forward and hurt other people. That's just hurt people hurting people. So doing no harm is very important, and keeping this in balance with taking no shit, right? Like it's all an energy exchange. We are the guardians of our energy. All of us are like the original spiritual gangster. Everybody is plugged the F in. You are born plugged in. It was, 1 in 10 goo gobs a million chance that you got to be here. And oh my gosh, you're here. You've got a reason for being here. It's following those values and sharing your gifts and resources with the world. It is doing these things. It is serving intentionally, just like the ways of servant leaders from every organized religion that's ever passed. And it is all about this balance of serving those meaningfully, and this can only be done by taking no shit in serving and having the values and not being willing to go against things that we're not okay with. There is a time and a place for being quite assertive, and also keeping this in mind with being unwilling to hurt anybody and being unwilling to take one on the chin so hard that we cannot also meet our own integrity. This includes us. So it's all this very important balance. So again, you can check that out on our website in the swag apparel link. 20% of all proceeds go straight to the Lifeline for suicide prevention, for all the stuff that we have going on. Again, that's what it's all about. It takes some capital to make some things go around, and want to make sure that we're continuing to invest in the services that keep people safe and that intervene in really dangerous issues facing everyday people. All right, let's keep answering some questions here. And again, what if you cut them off and my kids keep asking about them and I can't help but cry? It's very sad. Allow yourself to be sad. It's okay to be sad. It's okay for your kids to ask about them. It's okay for them to miss them. And I think as a comment said later on this thread, your kids, as long as you, when you're crying, this might sound a little heartless, and I don't want it to come off in this way. As long as you're making sure that they're not taking care of you when you're crying, as they're talking about their parent, which I know sounds heartless and mean, but they're trying to vent and have room to talk about and think about what's happening for them, and they need permission to really go there and to do what they need to do. And so if you're getting really flooded, they're going to have a hard time doing that with you because they're going to feel like they have to take care of you. So I know it doesn't sound very pop psychology cool to say stuff it down for a second while you talk to your kids, but stuff it down for a second while you do that with your little people. If you know that you're just super flooded and talking about their parent that they just had this split with, and then make sure you're taking your own space and your own time and giving room for those wounds to heal. It's okay to have the feelings. You should be having the feelings. It sounds like you're just getting going on this process of allowing them space to do it. So that is tough to know that you're not in control about it and can't make certain things happen with this other person, like a lot of times they are accustomed to doing. What do you tell them if you don't want to tell them the truth? Nothing. The truth or nothing. I know that's really flat, and I'm a big fan of the truth as soon as it's developmentally appropriate. And you might be surprised what you can take. People acting with some assholery and describe it in 5-year-old language. If you know that they've experienced it and it's they're trying to process it with you, you can explain some things to little kids. You just kind of have to be willing to think about different words and different ways of comparing things. But yeah, it's especially if they've had the experience and you're trying to process with them, speak. Okay, one lie leads to another. The truth repeats itself. Never good to talk ill of your ex, no matter how you feel. Yeah, no, it's not good to talk ill of your ex. It is good to make sure your kids don't feel insane if they're having weird experiences, and that you're not participating in crazy making with your kids, and keeping that in balance with not bad-mouthing them. so that they don't have to feel disloyal to you for talking about the other half of them, because that will jack them up. And it is a balance to strike. And you got to be very intentional about it. Know what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how you're going about doing it. Yes, ma'am, precious. It's an honor. Hi, hope you can answer a video, maybe live tonight. Well, I think I can. Oh, we just talked about that one. Okay. I need help. I need someone to talk to about my relationship with my husband. I'm pretty sure he's emotionally abusive. I'm a trauma survivor, and he refuses to recognize the fact that he keeps pushing me to have a physical relationship with him. Yeah, that's not okay. Regardless of whether you're a trauma survivor or not, like, you're a human, and your marital duty was officially outlawed in like 1991 in the last state of Louisiana or something. Like, that hasn't been all right for a little while. I've always conceded, but I just can't do it anymore. I'm glad you're figuring that out for yourself. We've been married for almost 30 years. Really need your help. I'm glad you're realizing that you don't feel comfortable making yourself physically available to him anymore. If you know you're not okay with it, don't do it. As long as it's safe for you to do that. Like, and I don't want to give any like black and white recommendations about something. I don't know if this is part of a larger abusive thing going on, but then you would have said that. I'm sorry, it did like threw off my like all of my hypervigilant like spidey sense from growing up like in an abusive household myself as a kid and with domestic violence. Like, when you started describing some of that stuff, I started like assuming there was more happening. But you're saying here, I think he's emotionally abusive, so I'm going to go ahead and assume that he's not doing a pervasive pattern of other stuff. But yeah, what he is doing is not okay, and you do not have to comply with that at all. I suggest you shut that store down. Shut it down. Not okay. And you've been married for 30 years, so congratulations. That's been a long time. It might be a little racy for TikTok, I'm not quite sure, but we'll see. For this old Gen Xer, I don't know what I can do. But it's probably been a while since you have gone to an adult store. So I want you to treat yourself. Go check that out. And maybe find one that caters to folks who are in their 50s and up, or be comfortable with, and who you can ask some questions about. Like, go see how you make yourself happy. Like, forget being available to this dude, as long as if you know it's not going to be dangerous, if you don't feel comfortable and it's not safe. Like, go have fun with your body. go do that. You're human. Okay. Anyway, I posted another video. It's funny. Watch it. Cool. When are you making the book? So I'm working on the last developmental edit of the book right now. I want it to be coming out like right before the holidays, when everybody is going back and spending a lot of time with family and has a little bit of time to think. So the book is called How to Man Up in Modern Society, Heal Yourself and Save the World. I know. But I'm reframing male privilege as a call to servant leadership. And that everybody is, the divine feminine is so pissed, and everybody has just lost trust in the man, not like men necessarily, everybody, but like the man, like the system, the institution, so much, because it has totally fallen out of maintaining trust and understanding with its constituency, with its communities, as we see them. And men are in the position right now where, we have more social, political influence in a lot of spaces, more economic influence, all this like fast twitch muscle that's developed over hundreds of thousands of years. The Me Too movement, everybody's talking about this stuff. Doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It means that it's there. So how do you want to use it? How do you want to connect to yourself? How do you want to connect to other people? How do you want to serve meaningfully with all the gifts that we have, which one of them being the privilege that's available to us, and how do we reconnect with ourselves and our communities in doing that? And that's really what this is. I'm trying to resolve the Me Too movement. I'm trying to resolve the divine feminine and the divine masculine being so pissed at each other, and some of this socio-political crap that's just continues to happen that stops really important dialogue from occurring. How do you know if someone's manipulating you? You'll have the sneaking suspicion that they are manipulating you, but that you almost don't mind or are going to continue going. That's the best way that I can explain it. As someone who, myself, growing up in an abusive household, I survived by having like a fawn response, and also kind of putting myself in between the authority figure and other people that were getting abused, and so it's very common when we grow up in that kind of setting, we'll be prone to getting manipulated later. If you hear people say like I'm an empath, that's what they're describing is intuition being kind of connected to hypervigilance, and then people pleasing getting connected to that, in this kind of combination that creates making ourselves available to manipulators and abusers. And then meanwhile, when we're engaging with them, we'll have the sense that something's like really not quite right. It's not quite adding up. Like there's something like, what's going on right now? But then we'll keep going along with it, or we'll like catch them in little BS and keep going along with it. So I think that if you ask, how do I know if I'm being manipulated? I think you know that you're being manipulated. Just saying. How do I know when my marriage isn't worth saving anymore? Or can you discuss boundaries? Yeah, I'm trying to create a healthy boundary with my in-laws and my husband. Oh. That's such an immediate, oh, why are you creating that boundary? That's a problem in his family. Take that as me being selfish and trying to take my husband away from the family. I'm not... he's your husband, you're married to him. And I'm assuming, I mean, unless y'all are from India or Asia, or a very collectivist culture where it would be understood that his primary allegiance is still with his family of origin, counting that out, his primary allegiance needs to be with you. If both from a more individualist culture, and that's what it is. So, and it needs to be whoever, like, so when we grow up, we launch from our families, we have to set whatever limits that we need with our families to feel like adults. And then when we start dating, we start connecting with people, especially when we start creating a family, we really have to set more of those limits. And once you partner with somebody, a lot of research shows that if there are continued boundary infractions by in-laws, by the families of origin, then whoever is biologically related needs to be the point person for setting that limit, right? Which makes sense. Like you're already, the opposite team, they're already going to be resentful of you. It's going to be really easy for them to see a coalition where there might even not be, and be like, it's us against her kind of thing. So he needs to human up and set some freaking limits with his family, and prioritize the family that he's decided to create with y'all, whatever they happen to be. And that would involve some conversations with y'all, between y'all, and then helping him consider how he can do that with them. And then if he can't do that with them, then that becomes a him speaking up for himself like an adult problem, which let's start talking about it more like that. It's not you separating him from his family. It's him speaking up. I don't know if I'm being paranoid. Is he really changing, or I still being manipulated? I don't know. Terrible ending to our relationship. He's at a wedding I will be at. If he says hi, I should acknowledge. Nah, you don't have to do anything that you don't want to. What I generally, a helpful way to think about this is if you're making decisions in a fog. This is an acronym that I use. in a fog out of fear, out of obligation, or out of guilt, don't do it. Just don't. You're doing it for reasons that are about validating other people or satisfying or pacifying other people rather than setting limits for you based on your own integrity, your own wellness, your own health. Now, of course, let me go back to the fear one. If you're scared because you think you're going to get hurt, do what you need to do to be safe. I don't need to have the ongoing caveat here, but just making sure. Okay, so let me see here. I'm going to answer a few more questions. I'm going to show you a couple more things, and we're going to keep rocking here. Here, just one. There is a guy that at one time said he loves me and now tries his hardest not to show it at all. Oh man, that guy. He will get irritated with me for the stupidest stuff and then block me when it comes back. So you tried to hold... I think what you just described is him getting really upset with you and holding you accountable to all kinds of little stuff, and then when you try to hold him accountable, he blocks you. I take 1 step forward and 10 steps back with him. I just don't get it. Again, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I don't know if there's much to get with this guy. You said there is a guy that at one time said he loves me. It sounds like he came in really hot and sweet. And right now, when you try to bring up what you need to feel treated fairly and safely, it shuts down. And they get the opportunity to ask it from as many different directions as they want, which does not sound fair. Does not sound like there's a lot of reciprocity. If I were you, I would take a good hard look about how he is behaving with you, separate that from what he tells you or what he has told you in the past, and give a real hard look at the timeline of events and the timeline of his behavior. This goes his, her, always pay more attention to their behavior than what they say. I think science is research from communication theory has shown us that, which has 93% of a message comes from the non-verbal components, which is tone, timbre, volume, follow through, body language, all this stuff. It is so much more. That's why comedy is funny. Right? Because they're like talking about a lot of different things at the same time and having all this like goofy non-verbal stuff that creates a lot of absurdity that makes it humorous. That's the literary figure of humor. So a minute ago, something that I just mentioned is that a lot of what this page tries to interrupt, in some ways is a lot of the traditional gender stuff that all of us get. That's just kind of in a lot of ways, a lot of malarkey. Like we have so much more free range with how we want to behave and engage with ourselves and with the world and with each other. But also about decentralizing power and making sure that we can have difficult conversations when a lot of times the man doesn't want us to, and the institutions and the powers that be don't want us to, from wherever those happen to be from. So this last T-shirt that I want to show y'all real quick, I think it's cool. It says, "My religion is love, my code is truth, politics is freedom. Race is human, my home is planet Earth." I think it's great. I try to, over the years in curating all this information and the balanced man plan system that you find on like all this stuff, it is pretty politically neutered. Try to do my best to make sure a lot of those agendas are not as palpable, because it turned people off so quickly, and there's so much corporate agenda wrapped up in so much of them, when at the end of the day, this is about human beings learning to be human beings again. This is about us coming from isolated farming communities during the Neolithic Revolution of 30,000 years, and then spilled out into concrete jungles and sold a bunch of crap and rhetoric and getting excited about bubble gum and brand names to give executive boards pennies on the dollar. It is nuts. And everybody has to be willing to pay attention to enough of it to be your own original spiritual gangster, to be able to tune into that abundance and be connected with yourself and be connected with your community and in the earth the way that human beings are designed to do. That's where the answers are. Sometimes clients ask, like, why do you think about all this stuff in this way? I first realized a lot of the dynamics that I talk about in when I was in my early 20s, and I went to go work as a wilderness therapist with at-risk youth in the Appalachian Mountains. At the time, I was 22 years old. I was an alcoholic. I was really into psychology, sociology, and anthropology. Like I studied like my butt off in undergrad, and I had a really bad drinking problem, and went off into the woods to go work with at-risk youth and give myself an excuse to be in a highly structured environment with like no electricity and no nothing and have to figure it out. And the first several months were some of the hardest stuff I've ever done in my life, and so incredibly difficult. And then soon enough, I fell in love with it. And I think that the average lifespan of folks who are doing that work is super intense, super high turnover, every like 3 or 4 months. I was there for 3 years. That was a long time. And what I ended up discovering was how human beings heal in relationships and in communities through intentional community living and in navigating simple everyday life in pro-social manners. And then after discovered this and got really excited about studying what I was studying, went off to go to grad school and study marriage and family therapy. I mentioned earlier that I grew up in an abusive household. I was the oldest sibling, and a part of me always felt really protective of the younger ones that I could never protect as well as it felt like I needed to, and I took on my role too. And in working in the woods with those kids, I would see, working with this young person, like 16-year-old, like gang-involved youth, like really hardcore stuff, and work with him for like 15, 16 months, and he gets it together, and then his younger brother would come through, and I'd be like, fuck, like, where are you guys coming from? I gotta figure that out. And that's what I did. And since then, I've just kind of been ripping and roaring and really passionate about this work. Again, I really appreciate all y'all being on the journey with us here at the Balanced Man Plan. If you liked some of the stuff that you saw tonight, I hope you check it out on the website or share with your friends. We're going to have a little bit more about that coming up, different stuff coming out. And, of course, got this book coming out right before the holiday season. It's called How to Man Up in Modern Society, Heal Yourself and Save the World, reframing a lot of the socio-political tension that we're having today as a call to action to resolve a lot of the huge problems that we have as a global community. And we can do it. All the resources are there. And as the grandson of an Auschwitz survivor, I've got this some people say it's stupid, but this undying faith that the starfish that we throw out will get remembered too. And they'll have kids, and they'll keep going. That's what this has got to take, right? We have to be willing to dig in. I'm digging in here with y'all. Going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep answering your questions. You know what? I have a lot of fun doing these lives with y'all. I'm going to do another one sooner than between the last one. Really enjoy it. And again, if you didn't happen to catch this one, or if someone tells you they didn't happen to catch it, please remind them that they can check it out on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is connected. Obviously, like Insta, like all the stuff is connected. Yeah, y'all keep your body healthy. Keep your mind aligned with your purpose and your people. Let's dig in together. We're on this healing journey. We got this. Just gotta never quit. keep rocking. When you need rest, you rest. Like Forrest Gump said, right? Take it easy out there, y'all. Peace.